Hello and good morning. Hi,
Hi.
everybody. I'm Laurie Battaglia. I'm the CEO of Aligned at Work in Scottsdale, Arizona. And at Aligned at Work, we believe that it's a whole new world out there and the rules of leadership are changing, among other things, which you'll hear about this morning. I am so thrilled to have with me Caroline Trudeau. And Caroline is going to tell you just a little bit about herself.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Lori. It's so good to see you. This pump up music really got me going.
I was dancing and then it goes off, and I'm
Five,
like,
7, 8. Love it. I'm Caroline Trudeau, and I'm here to have a conversation with you, Lori, about love at work. So exciting. I live in Virginia, in Reston. So a little shout out to my Virginia's for Lovers people here. And I am a professional speaker. And so are you.
yes,
It's
you
so
are,
exciting.
and yes, I am.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
also play the role of a consultant in my life. So it's really great to be here with you to talk about public speaking.
Yes, let's start there because that's how we met. So, and I'm going to ask everybody that's on to just put where they're coming in from in the chat. We can see that on our screen here in StreamYard. It's a fun thing. So let's talk about how we met. So once upon a time, each of us probably had somebody that referred us into this program called Heroic Public Speaking, run by Michael and Amy Port in Lambertville, New Jersey. Now, I'm originally a Philadelphia girl before Scottsdale. So that's pretty much close to home base. Got family in that area. So it was nice to kind of come back home again. But
Yeah.
how did you find HPS? Or how did you find it or they find you?
Well, it's a friend of mine who referred me to the program. And it's kind of a long story because this for me started pre-pandemic. So like this idea that I had something to say and I needed to get specific and to get creative and to harness this insatiable desire to use my voice is something that my friend Stephanie, shout out to Stephanie Reiser, who referred me to Heroic Public Speaking. She saw this in me and said, you have to go to CORE, and which is a 2-day program for those of us here who don't maybe know about it. So I went, and I was immediately, I knew that I was in the right place. I just felt supported by that community. And I learned so much in the first 2 days that I signed up right away for the graduate program. It just took me a whole pandemic and then, a little career journey beyond the pandemic to come back to be in your cohort. And I'm just so excited that we got to meet there. What was your journey like?
Mine was probably pre-pandemic as well, now that you mention it. I was talking to my friend Rhodes Perry. He said he was about to go into this. Then we all went into lockdown. So the question was, how are you going to do a get on the stage and speak kind of thing if you can't get on the stage and speak?
Right.
So most of the professional speakers that I know pivoted. I think a few that were close to retirement might have said enough, but everybody else pivoted and learned to do virtual presentations and learned what it took to even do virtual keynotes.
Yeah.
So I've seen some people do some amazing things keynote wise virtually. So Rhodes's program was all online, and now those folks from the pandemic times are starting to come into the live classes too. You and I did the first section of it. Like you, I went to CORE after being referred by Rhodes last spring. The joke is that I did not want to come in February because I had escaped all that snow and things like that by moving to Arizona,
Exactly.
and went back into it. And a friend who was going to go with me said, no, I'm not going to in February. So went in April, and then started in September, which then online, which then put me in the live stuff back in January, February, March, April, back into the cold. So I'll be layering up for our trip next week to get back there.
I know.
Yeah.
Next week is okay. So let's take a step back because I see Sarah. Hey, girl. Good to see you. I see Rory. Hey, Rory from HPS, heroicpublicspeaking.com. For those of you that want to check out the program that Laurie and I and many others the journey
a
that
lot of our friends on here.
yeah,
Yep.
I see Lisa.
Yeah.
Hey, I see Laurie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I cannot believe that next week is graduation. So essentially it's a, several months. It's an investment. It's not like you just show up and,
Right.
you put it in Chat GPT and then
If
that's
only.
not how it works. Yeah, I would love for it to be that. So we had writing, so script writing session in the first term of our program, which started in September, right? So September to
Yeah.
December, we wrote.
And into
And then,
January, really. Yeah.
yeah, I think into January, because we got feedback. There's people who give us feedback on our writing throughout the program. And then we came to meet for the first time in New Jersey, you and I, in January. And I got to tell you, for me, it was love at first stalk. I stalked you, girl. I didn't tell you this because I wanted to surprise you. I wanted to leave some spice for this conversation. So I have a bias, and I'm not really afraid to say it. When I get into a group or, a room, I look for three things. One is, where are my Canadian friends in the house? Like, I just love a full circle moment with my home country, even though I've been here in the
there.
And yeah, and yes, like hearts to our Canadian friends.
Yes.
Then I look for, where are my Arizona people? Because forks up, devils. So I saw you and I was like, oh, here's my girl, Laurie. I also look for people from DC. Shout out to Pam, who is my ride back and forth to Lambertville, New Jersey. So, hey, Pam. And then the third bias is like, do I see any evidence of people who are like-minded? Do I see, is there something I can grab onto to start building a two-way street? And when I saw your company name, I was like, oh my gosh, like Laurie hits all the biases, and here we are just having a lovely time together and like really
not Canadian, but that's it.
Okay. Arizona.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess Canada, Arizona, Provenance probably is a better category. But yeah, it was at first stalk for me. And then when we met for the first time in January, started to talk about what are our talks about. The talk is love at work is a TED talk. It's a TED style talk.
It is.
That's go Devils. Yeah, I see you
guys.
Yeah,
Yasmin, Angela. Hey, Angela.
Yeah, so for me, it was, it still is, or actually, it still is a working title. Yeah. And I maybe want to ask, can I ask your audience for some?
You can. I don't know if you have LinkedIn open.
Yeah, no, I see it. I see y'all. Yeah. What the title of the talk is Love at Work right now, but it's still a working title. Like, we're not done with our work. We're 80% and we're shaping, and now we're really starting to learn how to bring a talk to market. Like, how do you bring yourself out with some big transformative ideas to say?
Yes.
And so Love at Work, Aligned at Work were signals early for me that we were going to vibe. Right. And now that we're here, my question for the audience is like, is love at work something that resonates for you? And what does it mean to you when you see that topic? What does love at work sound like? I'm super curious because this is literally.
I can't wait to see what's in the chat box as people start answering that one. That's going to be good.
Can I see? Yeah. What does it mean? Like, what is the original sort of thought around it? Oh, my girl, Laurie. Hi. Love them up and keep them forever. Well, see, Laurie gets me. The other Laurie, Lori. Yeah. I'm so glad you came. Thank you. I come from customer experience background. I think another reason we vibed was when I performed one of my bits. I don't think we've heard each other's full talk.
We have not heard the full thing. We did not end up in the same group. So I've heard chunks of yours and you've heard chunks of mine, but we've never heard the full on thing.
Yeah. But you did hear my bit about Arizona and the call center at AOL.
Yes, I did.
A darling bit.
Yes, I love that bit.
And so we connected on this sort of customer experience, loyalty, and caring for people, and the evolution, if you will, of customer experience beyond just service or just experience. So I love that Laurie Joe said, "Love them up and keep them forever." Absolutely, that's really what it's about: extending the context of customer experience to human.
And I would say on that too, Lori, I definitely would push back on that, because I think unless we keep pushing the system, it's not going to come around. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing some version of let's bring love, let's bring heart, let's bring compassion. We're full on human beings. And I think the pandemic pushed us into that. I think there was a lot of talking and noise back here. And the pandemic was like, here you go. Yeah.
What are you seeing in your work, like Laurie? What are you seeing in the work that you do that touches this topic? Like, how does it show up in a client situation, for example?
Well, I'm finding that it's kind of interesting. I'm working with this one company right now as we speak. That I had class with them in January, February, March, and it's our signature leadership program. And I worked with them 5 years ago, and they are a male-dominated, I don't want to identify too much. They're a male-dominated field. They have both office workers and yard workers and that kind of thing. So it runs the gamut.
Yeah.
And the things I was hearing and talking about in the classroom 5 years ago, I was talking more like this, but not as much as I am now. I really wasn't fully opened up to it either. Like I was if you talked to me one-on-one. But if you put me on stage, would I be saying it? Yes and no.
Yeah.
So I'm finding people much more open to this, and it doesn't matter. You can't judge the book by its cover. Like, it doesn't matter if they look very rough and tough and like this would be crap. It's not that way at all.
No.
So I really think that especially the younger two generations in the workplace, Gen Z, which is my granddaughter's generation at ages 20 and 17. And then Gen Y, who's the millennial generation. So that goes up into the early 40s now. That 20 or 18 to 42 age group is pushing us in all new ways. So, and for the better. For the better, in my opinion.
I'm so glad to hear you say it in the context of, your business, because when I started this journey, it started off literally, and those of you that know me are going to giggle, but it literally started off as a Post-it.
I love it.
Oh. Yeah, I was kind of busting out of a box that wasn't for me, and I sort of went, okay, so how do I bring more love into what I'm doing first and foremost? And yeah, what you just said sort of pulls that thread for me all the way to like all the signs along the way that are like, you're onto something, you're onto something, you're onto something. And, for you to go, yeah, I see this in the work that we do and in the conversations that we have. Yeah. I'm not surprised anymore. Now I'm like, okay, like there's something real here. We gotta rally around it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to comment on some of the things in the chat. First of all, hi, Beth. It is good to see you too. And Sarah talked about positive and negative due to our own biases. There we go. Thank you, Yasmin. And negative and how companies take it to a toxic place and expect more from employees. Yeah, I want to comment on that. It's a family here. I get really uneasy when I hear companies talk about it's a family. And I'm like, oh, hey. That might be okay in my, I don't get real triggered by that myself personally, but I don't know that we want to be everybody's family. Family is not a great, safe landing place for a lot of people.
For some, yeah.
And it does kind of cross the line into, I don't know, it can cause relationships to be based on family dynamics, which I believe do come to work with us every day.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Thanks to my therapist years ago. I get that now.
And also, like, hundreds and hundreds of years of research about the most basic topic in maybe not basic topic, but the most basic search of understanding and emotion since the very beginning of time. Love is at the center of who we are as humans, and it does show up in family. Familial love is a type of love that is not romance, that comes into the workplace. 100. Yeah.
Right. And what I learned from my therapist years ago was that we recreate, here's a piece for you folks. We recreate the most dysfunctional relationship we have in our family at work.
Mm-hmm.
And in all parts of our lives, but we spend a lot of time at work. And so I had to do a lot of processing on that. And I don't know if I believed her. Then in my master's program, they talked about family dynamics and how if we work on healing those relationships, we affect the biggest parts of ourselves as leader. So
listen, I don't think I could have teed that up for you like any better. Because for me, I mean, and this is what the journey at HPS, at Heroic Public Speaking, has sort of culminated. Like when I reflected in preparation for this about like where I am on the journey, what I'm doing, what I'm going to say, what I'm trying to do to catch a check, like all the things. Yeah. This journey is about purpose for me. It's about like finding out who I am and how do I show up as the most impactful and powerful version of myself. This is a step on that journey. Thank you for sharing this stage with me. But it's also about how do I fully, I mean, this is Amy Port 100. Like she is my goddess of self-expression. Like
she really is a goddess.
Self-expression possible in all different places of life, which sometimes means busting out of a box, making your own transition from, you and I talk about this, an old system of thinking that is just like a little bit too linear for me. I need the revolution. I need the never ending inputs. I need to make things bigger. I need to be strategic. Like these are all things I know about myself that I now want to place myself in a position to have the greatest impact that I can. And it just so happens that it's on a stage and I'm so excited to continue the journey and actually stand there someday on a real.
So when did you know that you want to be a public speaker? Because I think a lot of people think we're born with it and we're not in my case.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the same question, obviously, but
okay.
I think I have a moment of origin that goes back to an IBM story, Big Blue. Hi to anybody from IBM that's here. I had a boss who was a partner, and like very, very short notice, he sends me to an event, which I thought I was going to be in the audience when he asked me to participate. But in starting to get the communication about what was going to happen at said event, I realized that he had given me his speaking slot. I
know. Okay.
So, it was huge, right? It was like 300 partners and, I had to talk about the capabilities of our business unit. And I did so much prep because I was like, I better have myself snatched up. And I loved every single bit of it. So that was in 2015, I think. And then, I just explored all of the different ways to use my voice with the blog and with the, podcast at some point, and with just all these different projects that I wanted to do. Oh, Laurie will be back. Sometimes she goes to the back, but started exploring all of these. Oh, hey, you're back. All of the different mechanisms for using my voice after that moment. And like the convergence of HPS in my life was really what took me. And I know that like, there's no doubt for it. When I go to, I don't want it to end. I don't want this program to end.
No, I'm like, graduate. I don't want to graduate.
I don't want to graduate, but let's graduate because we got big things to say. So what about you? When did you know? It sounds like it was an acquired taste for you.
So I grew up as a really painfully shy kid. And, kind of hiding behind mom's skirts, literally.
Stop.
And didn't want to do things on my own and all that. She would take over for me and, make sure. And I was just painfully shy. And then I would get chastised for talking too much in class, but I don't recall that I did. Nonetheless, the messages were there. And in the factory that I worked in. So there was a lot of people trying to shut me up. And then corporate, by the way, we'll come back to this, but corporate did a really good job of shutting me up. And I was like fuming under the surface. But even though I wanted to say what I thought, it took me a long time to undo that psychological damage that happens to you when people silence your voice.
Yeah.
So my aha moment, and by the way, folks, just in case I go to the back room again, I have a funny thing happening with my camera. And periodically it just goes boop, and I go back, and then I turn everything back on and I come back in. So Caroline will keep it moving if that happens. So for me, I ended up having an aha moment when I think about it, I think it was 1989. So 30 years ago, 30 plus years ago, I was in this group, and the guys in the group basically said, we need a woman to go up the ladder in this group. And it was an educational group for savings and loan people, the Institute for Financial Education. I learned a lot in that group, not just about the content, but how things run. And yes, there are meetings before and after the meeting, and you're never really in charge. That's what I learned. So they put me in. So there was like this, as you go up, then you'll take this job, you'll take that job. So a guy named Jerry had it before me. I just followed his plan. I was like, okay, so it looks like Jerry did an introduction. I guess that means I have to do an introduction. And so it just kind of went like that. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the 50th anniversary. There's going to be 500 people there this year. And most of the people who had done this, running this group, were CEOs who all had, I'm going back, private secretaries. So basically those secretaries ran the chapter's work, because we put 1,000 students a semester through classes.
So this is big. This is pretty big.
It was big.
Yeah.
So I just did what the prior agenda said. I'd never done anything like this before. I got up on stage. Before I did, I had a little bit of vodka and orange juice. You know, I had my screwdriver, a little bit, and I have no alcohol tolerance, so there's that. I had a glass of water. I had my tissues. I had my cough drops. Anything that could go wrong, felt like I was prepared. So I got up there thinking, okay, just get through it. Just get through it. Had my thing, and I stepped in front of that podium, looked out at 500 people, and thought, I was born for this. Like, I just got chills imagining that moment. Like,
oh my God,
I was born for this. Who has that happen? And so it was like, I am meant to be here. And I had the time of my life, and it actually led to my leaving my first organization and going to the second one, thanks to a conversation I had at that head table that night. So it was a meant to be moment that I did not see coming.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love JJ's here. Hey, girl.
Yes, JJ, me and a screwdriver. Who knew?
Screwdriver before going on stage. Not next week. Michael Port will not go for that.
No, there will be no alcohol, because my mom can't do that anymore.
I'm joking.
I lose my words.
Sarah said that she loves, I'm so glad you came, because Sarah and I had this discussion about, like, how do you make a transition to, you know, if you're interested in that. And I think we talked like maybe a month ago or so. And yeah, like this, making it look a certain kind of way, like making it look easy is so, it's such a mind-boggling phenomenon, because I mean, I have, you know, a TED Talk. So I have a TED style talk that I wrote. Yes. It's 2,000 words for, you know, 18 minutes max at my pace. And we've been on this call for 25 minutes. So it's real short. And I love this, this comment, because making it look easy is so hard.
Yes. There's so much that goes into the background of these things that I had no idea, because I was doing a different type of talk, what they would call Expertville.
Yes.
Instead of Visionary Town. Yeah.
So in consulting, we do a lot of how to, right? Like when we identify a problem and help clients think about, how they want their business to change or what they want to create in the future. There's, this gap and we sort of like how to. Um, for me, this talk is about the vision, right? Is am I capable of taking basic ideas about love, twist them in a way that my brain works,
Mhm.
deliver it on stage, and give people a transformational experience? That's what love at work is, like at its purest form for me right now. And yeah, the craft that we have learned in the program and how it applies to not only sort of this capstone that is like what we're going to finish the journey with, a talk, a teaser video, or not a teaser, a reel, a speaker reel, is
Yeah.
the journey. It's the manifestation of all of this work.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. What
Yeah.
is your big idea in your talk, Laurie?
Mine is about how teams aren't coming back around to the old ways of thinking. That people in the workplace have changed and shifted, and they're not coming back. And a lot of leaders, I'll blame my generation, boomer generation, and we've taught it to many of the people coming up right behind us in Generation X, that we're still leading in old styles of ways. And I'll just give an example of something that came up recently. I grew up in a very hierarchical kind of a thing. There's one person here, and then there might be a number, and then it gets bigger, and it's a big triangle. And 5 years ago, that company I was talking about was transitioning from the previous leader to the next up. And the next up was saying things like, people don't report to me, they report, or people don't work for me, they work with me. And in the back of my boomer brain, I thought, I wonder if that will last once he
Right.
really fully gets into this role. And I'm here to tell you it has lasted. And when I was telling him that I was doing this keynote, we had lunch the other day because I wanted to vet my ideas and find out if I was on the right track. And it was like 100% yes, you are. And I said to him, you said this 5 years ago, and I have to admit that in the back of my head, I was like, oh, I don't know. You'll find out. You gotta have the pyramid, and we don't gotta have the pyramid. And I've had that come up. Oh, I don't know how many times in examples in my life that I was like, oh, when I look back, there was evidence that you don't necessarily need the pyramid, and there was evidence, but it was always people that were younger than 55 telling me that.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, they'll find out. So when I do my talk, I have this leader, Jack, and Jack is a composite of many leaders. But I've come to realize there's some of me in there too. So own it, right?
Yeah, totally. This melting pot of generations and ways of working. And Jacqueline just talked about COVID in the chat. And we are literally at a moment in time where there is the fastest change coming at us from all over the places. And then we find ourselves at work, in a hybrid, which to me is maybe like half thought through, like, are we sure what we're doing? And with expectations and lines of roles and responsibilities that are sometimes a little fluid, this
Yes.
2023, nothing is for sure. There's no real playbook that works right now. We're just sort of all in it together, trying to figure out what are we going to create in our workplaces to help us fulfill our needs. Because right now, one of the most the most significant research finding that I had in this whole sort of last year of researching and looking into love and reading books, and was really that 70% of us go to work to find our purpose.
And
So
we think it's a job. Like we think there's a job that's our purpose, I think.
yeah, we go to work to find our purpose, and then we get there and half of us are dissatisfied.
Yeah. Yep.
It's, so for me, it was like, oh my gosh, like, no wonder I feel trapped in this box, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, what am I going to do? Because it doesn't have to be this way. It is 2023. So, what are some of the topics that we can start to bring to work to help us be more connected, to help us feel less like, people that are getting in line, and feel more like people who are starting the change that we want to see, which,
Yeah.
a more sustainable way to work. Forget about the must do this, must do that. Like, we want to work in a more sustainable, supported way. So yeah, I think we're just at the beginning of that, and it's really exciting to see.
We are.
Yeah, you feel
Yeah.
that too, right?
I think so. And I think the comments in the chat box are like unreal. And hi, Jackie, and
Sorry,
JJ's
I'm going to read them real quick and listen at
there's
the.
so many comments there. But oh shoot, and I just lost my train of thought, but it will
come back to you.
Okay.
It's work with me, not for me, JJ. Yeah.
Oh, I know. And the working remote and how does it work or doesn't it work? I figured out once I got into my own house, left corporate 8 years ago and started my own business full time. I had it going on the side as something different. And man, when I started working in the house, the big thing was, can I get a comfortable desk set up so that, I've got my 2 screens and I've got my ring light and I've got my, so you have to have the right equipment. But once you've got the right equipment, it is so much more peaceful here than it ever was in an office. Do I miss people? I miss the lunches and things like that. I always, I'm big on, you've got to give yourself a break during the day or I can't get through the afternoon. So I would a lot of times eat lunch with other people or go across the street to the restaurant over there. It was Laurie's office. So yeah, I miss that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of times when leaders are like, everybody's got to come back in the office because, like, don't be lazy. We lead by seeing people and literally being able to look over their shoulders. And did we anyway? Well, some do. And then they get labeled as micromanagers. So nobody wants to be that. But I think there's ways you have to be more intentional about the way you lead. And you have to be more outcome based rather than just busy.
Oh my gosh, girl, you said outcome based. You got me. Like, I am so tired of measuring P's and Q's.
Yes.
It's incremental change. I want to see exponential change in our work, and double clicking on emotions for me and picking the most powerful one, i.e. love, was sort of this, it was like I have to show that this incremental business of quarter to quarter thing, I have to do this for myself because I believe it so hard.
Yeah.
And I have tried it in every place that I've worked at. And I just want to be focused on that. Like, there's enough people thinking about money. There's enough people thinking about all the things. Like, what outcomes can we generate for people? And how does that impact the longevity of our companies?
Yes.
I'm all about that.
My belief is that when you bring the heart into leadership, you get even better results because people aren't fighting you. When they realize who you are as a human, they make a decision consciously or unconsciously to trust or to not trust.
Yeah.
And the more human you are as a leader, the more that builds trust. And, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to trust one another so we can work together. We spent hours of time. The first time when I launched Aligned at Work, my talk at that point had in it like how many hours you worked. And I had people multiply the number of years by 2,000 hours, because roughly if you were 40-hour work week, you were 20/80. Let's give you 2 weeks of vacation, make it 2,000, make math easier.
Yeah.
And then how many of the people in that audience were really only working 40 hours a week? Probably not a lot of them. They were leaders in organizations, and there's this grind it out, go, 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 go culture.
Yeah.
Which I don't believe. I live it, but I don't believe in it. I don't think it's sustainable. I think it chews us up. We'll go there next. So I was counting the hours at work, and the fact that I spent more time at work than I did with anybody that I loved, you
Yeah.
know, romantically or family wise. I was not spending it with them.
Yeah,
So,
totally. Yeah.
yeah.
I that resonates really hard with me. And I found myself just trying to please the system and, not really listening to myself until I started to do this work and then became essentially an example of what we talk about in the, for the future.
Hmm.
It happened really, really fast. When I got aligned, to your point, I was like, okay, I have a big mouth. I have a lot to say. People listen because have this energy and I make different decisions than normal, sort of in the box type. Like this people like it sticks and it helps me build relationships and it helps me engage in this activity right here. This is love at work to me. This is conversational leadership. This is
Yes.
using our voice, our humanity out in the world in a vulnerable way. My first LinkedIn live, girl. I don't think I told you that, but like this is the action.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very,
Yeah. Hey,
yeah.
talk to me about self-love a little bit, because I know we've had some, you and I have sort of not talked a lot about that, but it's come up from time to time. What about self-love? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think about it in the context now more of the 70% of us go to work to find our purpose. Like
Yeah. Okay.
I see an extreme need for all of us to really understand what is our purpose, because this sort of, I think I'll go to work to find out and then I'm not happy, and then I can think I'll go to work to find out and I'm not happy. This to me is a vicious circle.
Yes.
It's a vicious cycle rather,
Yes.
because then you're always trying to shape yourself
And
to,
you're always looking like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Yeah.
and it ain't there. I had a conversation this morning. Edwa, I think, is here. Like, she said, hey, it comes from inside. It's in us. And we have to figure out how to tease it out, how to show up with the knowledge that is like, what do I love about myself? What is the thing? So I think we all have a responsibility to bring that to work. Great tool that works for that is, strength based coaching. And Rory
Yes.
and I have done some strength finder, Gallup strength coaching
Yeah.
sessions to like really get clear about what is your beauty? Like what do people see when they see you? And then
Yes.
bring all of the might and power of that at work. Now
Yeah.
we start to have a little bit of a different swagger when you walk into the meeting room or into the Zoom. So for me, it's really about like reconciling this ginormous need that we as a society have to go to work to feel our purpose, and bringing it all back to, what am I best at? Like what shiniest star am I?
Yeah.
And then what do I have to do to manifest that even more? So this whole journey for me has been that. I didn't expect it. Like I knew there
Yep.
was something off. I was like, okay, well, and I knew I needed to be, I knew somebody needed to give me a microphone, right?
Yeah.
So
Please, somebody hand me a microphone. Yes.
thank you, Laurie. Thank you for the
You're
microphone.
welcome.
But for me, then it became, okay, developing a craft and finding myself in the places where I really was good and I could become better, and then I could enhance more skills as I continued the journey. And that really, for me, like in this moment in time, I feel it more than ever before. And I feel it in the context of this work with, the public speaking and HBS. And it's about so much more than getting on stage,
Yes.
delivering a transformational experience. For me, it has literally been sort of a capstone to how do I really stand into all the power that I have?
And use my voice well and change the world for the better. And what's really cool, and a lot of them are on here, is that there's 40 people or so in that room at any given point in time.
So
Yeah,
cool.
we've got
So cool.
yeah, we've got lots of people commenting and making wonderful comments over there in the box that
Oh, people
just,
love the outcome based.
yeah, how about that? And
Yeah.
then you know if you got it and you don't have to. Here's the other thing. I think that it would be amazing, and it took me years to get there, because when one goes to corporate, one has an idea in your head that you've got to start at, I don't know, 8 or 9 or whatever your time is, and go to 5 and maybe take an hour for lunch. I do, because I'm a lunch eater and I got to get my energy going.
People got to eat.
I can't. That's an unhealthy thing when you
Yeah.
don't eat and I lost track of time. F that. If I would, you and I would normally drop the real word.
We would,
But,
of course. They
we're in
know.
public
They
now.
know.
Yeah, they know what we're trying to say. But you've got to take care of yourself. And I say these things out loud because sometimes I need to hear them myself. You've got to take care of yourself. It's not sustainable to just keep working yourself in the ground. I think it's amazing. In my perfect world, I spend my mornings, which I'm not a morning person. I'm a night owl, big time. I spend my mornings doing it in my perfect world, focus work. I take the afternoon and I don't do any work. And I go back online at 10 o'clock at night when I have a second wind and work
Oh,
then.
okay.
That would be my perfect world. It gets interesting when you're on the West Coast and, you have a lot of East Coast connections, the 3-hour time difference.
Always. And across the Atlantic, in my case, I do a lot of work in Germany. And so there's just a lot
to manage there. Australia's nice because their morning is our night. So
that works for you. For me, it's
work for me.
I'm the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's go through the comments and see if there's anything we want to specifically, because I've been reading them as they go by. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love Laurie's comment about the few of the younger people on my team have never gone to an office. I know companies that have been fully remote from day one. They don't find it hard to manage people. So there you go. Yeah.
We're on to an office every day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. And then that COVID, and some of this stuff is actually in my talk about how COVID raised our awareness that there were different ways to work. And coming from the Northeast part of the US was always the part that was more locked down and wearing suits and all that than the West Coast ever was, in my opinion.
Yeah, of course.
I would talk to career coaching clients a few years back about remote work that were East Coast based, and they'd be like, that's not possible. And I'm like, it is out here. So maybe that will come. And then the pandemic hit, and then we learned what we could do remotely. Anything else?
Yeah, for me, in my in my sort of career journey, the pandemic was sort of the acceleration and the global, I think, acceptance of the importance of digital. I no longer, after the pandemic and my career as a consultant, had to try to convince a board that digital was worth the investment. Like, everybody was on board.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was sort of this huge general acceptance that made it the melting pot that it now is. Here we are all trying to figure it out. We know we need to do it. We know we need to bring more love at work. We know that we need to, this to me is a market signal, right? Yes, this conversation resonates. People need it. Even more ideas out. Yes, keep going, keep doing this work.
It's like keep pushing the envelope.
Stand it up on its feet for the TED Talk someday.
Yes,
I call it the someday TED Talk. It's one thing to get on a TED stage, like doing this work, to have it together. That's a whole nother ballgame. But on the consulting side, to help organization shape culturally to help bring this conversation into the DNA of their cultures, and augment the investments that I know they're already making in, customer experience, employee experience, all things human experience. What does that mean to us in the context of an organization coming to us looking for the way to bring love into what they do. So it's really exciting time because there's so much changing and there's so much acceptance for feelings and emotion at work.
There really is. And I think that it is the time is now to keep pushing it. I do think that we would do it a disservice if we didn't say that anytime you shift a system, it gets a little ugly here and there. There's going to be dissension. There's going to be disagreements. People are going to take it personally and think it costs them something. And, I can't do that because that takes it away from me. And even if they don't admit that freely, that's what's driving the keep things the same kind of stuff, because then we don't have to refigure it out.
Yeah.
A couple things from the chat box there. Jennifer Manila, on the flip side, I've heard at least 2 people before pre-COVID that they couldn't work from home and wanted to be in the office. That's a good point, because I tried to think about what it would have been like, let's just say, for the sake of not naming names, earlier in my life, before I was married to this person who I get along and like, as well as love. I would not have been able to be productive from home as much as it was an escape to go to the office. Or sometimes your house doesn't have room.
Yeah.
You're just barely making it, and you don't have a space that you can sit in, and certainly not a laptop, and just those kinds of things. I think we always need to be aware that sometimes home is a trap for some people, and to others, it's a refuge. And so in the perfect world, how is there a both and, a yes and, to put it in HPS language, rather than you have to be all here or all there, or people are also kind of like in this blur of, well, you want me to come in the office, but when I'm here, nobody's here, so now I'm on Zoom. Why can't I Zoom from home?
Yeah.
Without, in my case, the 1-hour commute each way that I used to have for 20 years of my life.
Yeah, totally. And then, how are we designing experiences at work that enable us to co-create in a hybrid environment, so that if you do happen to be the one that is at the office by yourself, you can still be part of the experience that is the creation of whatever happens in that workshop or that meeting. Or, I see so much of the replication of, maybe an experience that's online into a physical space that leaves a lot of potential for bringing more connection amongst the people that are on the team. So yeah, I think we have a lot of really interesting, mind twisting journeys to take on when it comes to, back to your point, that, the system. How do we go from sort of like a tradition? We all know it's happening, right? I don't know. Actually, let me ask you, when we say we're going from a linear system of thinking to a circular way of thinking, like we're starting to really bring into all of the diverse ways of thinking, like, does that resonate with people in this crowd? Are you all like, yeah, of course we're changing? Like, I feel like it's such a no-brainer to me. It's happening so much that I almost make these assumptions thinking that it's just me, but I'm starting to feel like, oh my gosh, people, yeah, we all know, we all kind of know. And who is it going to be that's going to sort of step out and make a bold statement? Or who's it going to be that's going to have a solution that actually helps us? So I'll just be that girl.
Yeah. Big ships turn slowly a lot of times.
Yeah.
They really do. And smaller ships, boats can pivot faster. And what I see is a lot of companies that are being created now are doing it that way from the start. So they've always been remote.
We have like the traditional companies, I call them legacy, and then you've got like these sort of born digital companies who just like got to take advantage of all of the technology that was available, like 1990s, 2000s. And, are we maybe looking at, the purpose era company creation? Ooh, I like this. I'm gonna spend a mind cycle on that this afternoon and tell you about it next week.
Very good. Very good. So we're coming up the home stretch, as
gosh.
I know, right?
Fast.
50 minutes in. So I think we've got our ideas out there. what else would you like to tell folks, and how do they find you?
Yeah, well, right here on LinkedIn, like just click the button, connect with me, leave me a note.
Here we go.
Thank you, Yasmin. Also, I mean, I would be silly not to take this opportunity to sort of take us in the next phase, if you will, of our creation program in the public speaking world. But you know, having an audience for the rehearsals that are part of one's preparation for a TED stage is key, and I am there. So if there's anyone in the audience who'd like to spend 20 minutes with me in the coming 3-4 weeks to do a little bit of rehearsal for the actual TED Talk that is Love at Work, how conversations about love can revolutionize our workplaces, please, please, please send me a note on LinkedIn and I'll be in touch. And I would love to invite you to, it's going to be intimate. I'm not doing this, just like I want to feel it with an audience like this. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn. Let me know if you want to see the TED Talk, the beginning of the rehearsal process that leads eventually to the red carpet. And yeah, let's connect and keep the dialogue going. Go to work, talk about love. It'd be great.
Awesome.
What about you?
And you can
What do you
well, people can find me. Let's see. Yasmin, put up the support at Aligned at Work is an easy way to get in touch with us. And then we also have alignedatwork.com, which is our website, currently undergoing a few changes here and there. So if you see something wonky, feel free to let us know. But it's in its wonky phases where we're trying this and we're trying that. So anything could happen, just like my camera. And then
it's 2023. Anything is possible.
It is. And I will be speaking at the Southwest Safety Conference. And you can actually sign up for it there. And yes, it is Southwest Safety Congress. It's sitting on the page there. And that is the Arizona chapter of the National Safety Council. And they want to make safety personal as well as like at work. So it's sort of like Pretty Love to Work. They want to make it personal. And shout out to HPS again, because I realized after I saw who the other speakers were, there's 5 of us, that 2 others are in heroic public speaking. So
no way. That's amazing. So are you giving your the keynote that
I am rolling out the keynote? I'm kind of, because I have a 60-minute and I'm not a memorizer. So, send good vibes, folks. It's yeah. And I too am practicing. I actually just got my in-person group together so I can get in front of humans.
Yeah,
exactly. Out on stage.
I know. It's you gotta have audiences, and oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you have an actual date book. This is amazing. I aspire to get there as well.
Yes, it's forcing me to get ready, because I would be like, oh, it's almost there. But when I have a date, I will. Well, I have a date, and then I will do it again in May at Leading Age California, where I spoke last year out in Monterey.
It'll be fine.
And then, yes, Jennifer, it will be fine. I bought the T-shirt that said, "It'll be fine."
You did? You got it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then I think, one of the things to do maybe for the audience or for anybody who catches this on a replay, for those of you who are interested in taking your professional speaking interest to the next level, we're happy to make introductions. The program is referral based at Heroic Public Speaking, but like we're all about making the connection. So yeah, if anybody, I know there might be some interest in that.
And it's for folks who are already doing some speaking. So it's not a basic, I think I want to be, but it's you're doing something and you want to get even better at it. So you'll find like all levels of speakers in there, from I'm doing it, but I don't know how to do it really, to the I make a living off this and I'm coming in for this. You find everybody and such a supportive community filled with love. I will say.
Absolutely filled with love and gratitude. Laurie, seriously, thank you so much for spending time with me, for opening up your platform to me, for helping me get the first words out, like the funky firsts are done, for giving me this feeling of like 10, 9, 8, 7 right before you go. I love that. Right before you go on, and for being you. I love you so much.
Absolutely. And IU. And I have friends that are trying to normalize saying that out loud.
Yes.
I
Oh my
love
gosh.
you.
I'll
Yes,
say it.
we
And
need
if
a little bit more of that vibe in the world today. So I want to thank everybody for being with us. Yes. Well, thank everybody for being with us. You can catch it on the replay, and it will also be on the Aligned at Work YouTube channel. Please do sign up for that because we put all these out there. And I believe that is it. Please walk in love and spread good vibes in the world. Thank you.
JJ, she's so cute.